Today, we're diving into the Suryavansha, the legendary Solar Dynasty of India. We're going to trace its path from its incredible mythological origins, talk about its most iconic kings, and follow the line all the way to its most famous descendant, Sri Rama.
I mean, that's a powerful idea, isn't it? A dynasty whose right to rule doesn't just come from earthly conquest, but from a cosmic, celestial source. And that's really the core claim of the Suryavansha. It sets the stage for an absolutely epic story.
So, where does a story like this even begin? Well, according to Puranic tradition, you have to go all the way back to the very source of creation itself.
Okay, so this family tree here really helps map out the divine descent. According to the tradition, the whole thing starts with Brahma, the creator. From Brahma, you get Marichi, who fathered Kashyapa. And from Kashyapa was born Vaivasvata, who you probably know better as Surya, the sun god.
Let's just break that down real quick. So from Surya, the sun god, came Vaivasvata Manu, who's considered the father of humanity in this current age. And then it was Manu's son, Ikshvaku, who brought this whole celestial lineage down to earth and became the founder of the royal Solar Dynasty. And that is the crucial link, right there, between the heavens and the kings of Ayodhya.
You know, to put this in a bigger perspective, claiming to be descended from the gods wasn't unique to India, not at all. We see this across so many civilizations. For rulers in ancient Egypt, Rome, or Japan, this was a seriously powerful way to legitimize their rule. It basically turned their authority from just political to something cosmic, something you just couldn't question.
All right, so now let's move to the dynasty's first earthly king, Ikshvaku. This is the moment where that mythological line becomes a political one. Ikshvaku is really the foundational figure here. I mean, he didn't just inherit a title. He is the one who established a structured kingship and made Ayodhya his capital. And that city would, of course, become absolutely central to the entire story of this dynasty for generations and generations to come. So from Ikshvaku on, the lineage continued for dozens of generations. And this brings us to a really common misconception, one that's definitely worth clearing up.
You've probably heard this before, right? That Sri Rama was the 33rd king in this line, which would mean there were 32 kings before him. This number gets tossed around a lot, but the fuller historical records, well, they tell a very different story.
And this is where we can see the full picture. When you actually look at the extended Puranic lists and the traditional king records, you realize the lineage is much, much longer. I mean, these documents just name ruler after ruler, generation after generation.
So, here's the crucial point. Based on these more complete genealogies, Sri Rama wasn't the 33rd king. He was actually the 61st king of the Ikshvaku line.
So why the mix-up? It's pretty simple, really. Some texts only bother to highlight the most famous or influential rulers, which gives you this condensed, shorter list. But other sources, their whole job was to preserve the full succession. The key takeaway here is that a list of important kings isn't the same thing as the total list of kings.
So, being the 61st king meant that Sri Rama didn't just inherit a throne, he inherited a legacy 60 generations deep. And what kind of legacy was it? Well, let's look at a few of the absolute giants whose shoulders he stood upon, because each of them really embodies a core virtue of the dynasty.
First up is the virtue of truth. This was defined by Satyavadi Harishchandra. I mean, this king was so devoted to truth that he sacrificed his kingdom, his wealth, and his family, all just to honor a promise. This established the dynasty's core creed. Your word is literally more valuable than your own life.
Next, we get a lesson in ambition and its consequences, and that comes through the story of King Sagara. This guy was a mighty emperor, and the tale of his 60,000 sons is this grand narrative about the sheer scale of royal power. But it's also a cautionary tale about spiritual responsibility, and it sets up a monumental task for all his descendants.
And that task was eventually fulfilled by a king who embodied the virtue of perseverance. That was King Bhagirath, Sagara's descendant. He undertook this intense penance to bring the sacred river Ganga from the heavens down to earth. And his success wasn't instant. It was the result of generations of effort. His name is now literally synonymous with monumental, unwavering determination.
And finally, the virtue of prestige. This was cemented by King Rahu. He was so powerful, so influential, that the entire Solar Dynasty, the Suryavansha, also became known as the Raghuvansha, the House of Raghu. His reign really represents the absolute peak of the dynasty's worldly power and its reputation.
So following these legendary figures, the line continued through Aja and then to one of its most well-known kings, Dashratha, who was, of course, the father of Sri Rama.
And that finally brings us to Sri Rama, the 61st king. Now, this timeline is based on traditional calculations, which are derived from some really complex astronomical interpretations found within the texts. It's really important to note that these specific dates are a subject of historical and scholarly debate, for sure. But they give us a narrative framework for the key events of his life, from his birth all the way to his eventual coronation in Ayodhya.
So as we wrap this all up, we're left with a really big question. What is the Suryavansha? Is it a literal factual history? Is it a sacred mythology meant to teach us deep truths? Or a form of political symbolism used to legitimize kings? Or maybe it's something more. A civilization's collective memory of its highest ideals, embodying truth, determination, and dharma through the stories of its greatest heroes. That final interpretation, well, I'm going to leave that one to you.